do you get when a company known for building boring, boxy cars suddenly snaps and decides to go rogue? You get the 1962 Ford Cortina, a car that rolled off the line looking like a responsible family sedan, but underneath the hood, behind those modest looks, was something that would humiliate sports cars, dominate rally tracks, and redefine what a budget car could do. This car didn't just move people. It moved markets, moved trophies, and moved hearts. It was lightweight, agile, and brilliantly engineered, with options that made it everything from a Sunday school shuttle to a track day titan. And oh boy, the secrets this car hides, from Lotus magic to suspension disasters, from being Britain's best-selling car to becoming a global powerhouse, are going to blow your mind. Before we dive deeper into the madness, do me a favour. Smash that subscribe button like you're smashing your foot on the gas pedal of a Lotus Cortina tearing through a racetrack. This story is just getting started. Back in the early 60s, Ford of Britain was stuck in a bit of a jam. They needed a hit. The Anglia was aging, and the market was shifting toward lighter, more affordable cars that were easier to maintain and offered better fuel economy. So Ford rolled up their sleeves and set out to create a new type of car, something light, simple, cheap, but effective. The idea? Create a world car for the everyday man. And out came the Ford Consul Cortina, later just called the Cortina. It was designed from scratch, fast-tracked in just 21 months, and built to be as lightweight and efficient as possible. The base model featured a 1.2L inline-4 Kent engine that put out just 49 horsepower. But thanks to the car's low curb weight, about 850 kilograms or 1,870 pounds, it still felt nimble. And here's the twist. This wasn't a car Ford expected to become a legend. It was just supposed to be a practical economy car, but then something strange happened. They discovered that this little car had serious potential, more than anyone expected. But what Ford did next turned this modest machine into a motorsport monster, and they didn't do it alone. Enter the mad genius Colin Chapman, founder of Lotus. Ford wanted to compete in racing. Chapman wanted a lightweight chassis to tinker with. The Cortina, perfect fit. So, in 1963, the two companies joined forces, and the result was the Lotus Cortina, a sleeper legend that looked like a librarian's car, but performed like a lightweight boxer. Lotus took the basic Cortina and transformed it. They swapped the engine for a 1.6L twin-cam unit derived from the Lotus Elan. Output? 105 horsepower, over twice the base model, in a body that still weighed under 2,000 pounds. They upgraded the suspension, gave it a close ratio gearbox, and even drilled holes in the body panels to shave off weight. The rear suspension was completely redesigned to a coil spring setup with trailing arms. The result? A car that dominated on both tarmac and rally stages. It didn't just look fast, it was fast. The Lotus Cortina could do 0-60 miles per hour in under 10 seconds, which was wild for the early 1960s. And in races like the British Saloon Car Championship, it crushed competitors like an elephant stepping on ants. But the wildest part, most people didn't even know what they were looking at. It was stealthy, it was fast, and it made Ford a serious contender in motorsport. But what's even crazier is how Ford snuck performance into regular Cortinas, and sold them in a way that made rivals sweat bullets. Not everyone could afford a Lotus Cortina, so Ford introduced a middle child, the Cortina GT. Think of it like this. The base Cortina was like a plain burger. The Lotus version was a gourmet steak, but the GT, that was your perfectly grilled suya, full of flavour, spicy enough to make you smile, and still affordable. Under the hood, it had a 1.5L inline-4 with twin-choke Weber carbs pushing out about 78 GP. That might sound modest, but again, light body, tight handling, and new front disc brakes made it a blast to drive. It had a unique dash with a full set of instruments, rare for the time. Sportier looks and suspension tuned just enough to make cornering fun without spilling your tea. And the best part, it looked like your uncle's daily driver, but had the heart of a sprinter. The GT became a hit with young drivers, weekend racers and company car owners who secretly loved tearing it up on winding roads after work. This model was key in cementing the Cortina's reputation as a car for everyone, but with bite. But under all this success, Ford had a dirty little secret, and it involved a rear suspension design that nearly ruined the Cortina's handling legacy. All right, time for some real talk. The early Cortinas had a bit of a bouncing problem. Why? Because Ford, in their cost-cutting brilliance, equipped the Cortina with leaf springs in the rear suspension. Great for carrying heavy loads, not so great when you're cornering at speed. Drivers quickly discovered that at high speeds, especially during cornering, the back end of the Cortina could get jumpy. It was called the Cortina bounce, and it was not a dance move you wanted to do at 60 miles per hour. Lotus saw this and said, nope. So in the Lotus Cortina, they ditched the leaf springs and installed a much more advanced coil spring and trailing arm setup. Handling transformed instantly, but Ford didn't want to raise costs across the board, so they stuck with leaf springs in the regular models, just with tweaks and reinforcements. That meant inconsistent handling. Great in some versions, sketchy in others. The joke among car fans? The Cortina drives like a dream, if your dream includes mild heart attacks. Still, most owners adapted and the rest just preyed on every corner. But believe it or not, the Cortina's biggest shock wasn't mechanical. It was how far its reach spread across the globe. Think the Cortina was just a British legend? Not even close. This car went global. In Australia, they built their own versions of the Cortina, including a wild 3.0 LV6 Cortina called the Big Six, which turned the polite British car into a proper muscle machine. In South Africa, the Cortina became a rally favourite, reliable, easy to fix, and quick on rough terrain. They even had a backy pickup version of the Cortina. New Zealand made its own versions too, assembling CKD completely knocked down kits locally. And guess what? The Cortina was so beloved there that it became a staple police car. Ford also used the Cortina platform in India, Ireland and even Nigeria, where its ruggedness made it a perfect fit for challenging roads. This was a car that could adapt, change engines, change bodies, change driving cultures, and still remain iconic. Over the years, Ford sold over 4.3 million Cortinas with different marks and facelifts, making it one of the most successful British cars of all time. But beyond sales and specs, what made people fall in love with the Cortina? Let's take it home. The Cortina wasn't just a car, it was a cultural moment. In Britain, it became the face of the middle class. The car you got if you had made it. In fact, the phrase Mondeo Man actually started with the Cortina. Everyone from teachers to salesmen to rock stars had one. It starred in TV shows, movies and even music. The Cortina wasn't just transportation, it was part of life. For many, it was their first car, or the car they learned to drive in, or the car they remember their parents driving on long road trips. It was that background character in everyone's story, never flashy but always there. And that's what made the Cortina so loved. It was honest, practical, but still had a cheeky grin when you floored it. By the time the Cortina was replaced by the Sierra in 1982, it had left a legacy most cars can only dream of. Even today, car enthusiasts restore them, race them, and treasure them. Because once a car becomes part of your memory, it never really dies. So there you have it. The shocking secrets of the 1962 Ford Cortina. A car that began as a humble solution to a problem and ended up being a motorsport monster, a global icon, and a cultural symbol. From bumpy leaf springs to Lotus engineering, from the school run to the finish line. It proved that greatness doesn't always come with turbochargers or big wings sometimes. It's a boxy little British sedan with a big heart and a hidden bite. If you enjoyed this deep dive into automotive history, give this video a like, and if you haven't already, subscribe to ABT Tech Lab for more insane stories from the world of autos and vintage legends. And who knows, maybe your dad's old car in the garage is hiding a secret history too. Thanks for watching, and keep those engines revving.